Some time ago, I read a number of Fallout Dream fan game ideas from a survey I conducted. Some of you seem to really like it. So, here are 3 more of your Fallout Dream games. Starting off the list, we have Cheeky Lad's Fallout title that takes place in a non-specific area, with the only qualifying element being that it's far away, but close enough to feel the influence of the West Coast factions. The game is a classic-style turn-based RPG, with some adjustments, like specific skills merging together, non-lethal takedowns, and a reputation system akin to Fallout New Vegas's. They also want to emphasize a lack of useless perks. The plot of the game starts off with a player traveling with a caravan. The method of how the player joined is optional, holding a caravan position such as a guard, or tagging along with friendly or malicious intent. This merely affects the starting gear. The caravan arrives in a settlement, and there the player can do a few tutorial quests, and can learn, via the dialogue, about the various ideologies spread across the wasteland. Once ready, the player can leave with a caravan. Doing so prompts the second part of the beginning, in which the caravan is raided. Some of the fellow caravan buddies may survive, depending on the choices made during the raiding, but after this point, the player is free to explore. The player can work with any factions they wish, but some factions hate each other, and there's a limit to how much employment by the rivals they'll tolerate, especially if it hurts their own interest. Some factions Cheeky Lad would like includes one with a democratic government, similar to but smaller than the NCR, anarchists, unity remnants, ghoul supremacists, a paramilitary under a dictatorship, and an anti-technology tribal group. Joining these factions may prove to be tricky. Each have their own recruitment methods. Some may require you to be skilled in something specific, some may have a quest, some consider your reputation and karma, some care about your appearance such as age and gender, and whether you're a human, a supermutant, or a ghoul. Still, you can adjust these requirements through certain means like bribing, and of course you can also make it more difficult for you by working against them in the past. Regardless, once you're in, naturally there will be quests. Some of these guys won't care about your methods, but others will. Those that care may adjust your rewards depending on their ideologies. It's also possible to potentially reshape their ideologies if you're able to convince them. Otherwise, breaking a group's ideological methods may cause some of them to mark you for death. But if you're successful, you'll prove to be more important to the faction, and that could create alliances with others if the relationship is good between the groups. That said, your solutions can impact the ending of the game. There will be different endings depending on your methods, what factions are alive or dead, who is allied to who, etc. Combat characters will end in a battle, diplomats with a meeting and negotiations. Now my own thoughts. I do generally like the idea of all this, though I can tell it's a pretty early thought one, with no names and no definite location. Still, it seems like a game that puts choice and consequence at its very core, with each action capable of impacting the outcome of the title. It's a fun thought, but I expect from a development standpoint, there's so many variables, it would just be hard to do well. Still, this was from a Dream Fallout game survey, so fair dues. I also enjoy the caravan origin beginning, a pretty good way to start someone new to the area without the need of a vault. JB1EAA has a game set in the Legion territory. For gameplay, he goes down a very treaded path of mixing Fallout 4 and New Vegas together, such as perks like New Vegas and gunplay like 4, though with a new degradation system that has weapon explosions and jamming. There will be co-op play, DLC-sized individual world spaces, more akin to Outer Worlds than the classics, Morrowind style, fast traveling, and settlement building. The plot itself is settled with Mr. House's victory. Lannius's Legion has sworn to return to Hoover Dam, but after 15 years they have found themselves in civil wars, slave revolt, and famine. Larger settlements broke off and claimed independence, and the leadership at Flagstaff hasn't been able to get a handle on the situation. The player could choose a number of backgrounds, such as legionary, slave, prospector, trader, tribal, and even a New Canaanite missionary. The main story is about navigating between several groups and uniting them, and whether you want to use peaceful methods or be the third Caesar. The author notes they basically want a game at its core to be about making your own faction, rather than simply being an errand boy. To expand on that, they want to emphasize the reputation system, causing the groups that are hostile to a faction that you have aligned with to have a negative opinion on you, pointing towards the war never changes theme. So, much like the last one, this one is very faction heavy, and I like the idea of this one as well, since it really grasps at actually running a faction rather than just being a figurehead leader. I also feel this one would be more manageable from a developer standpoint, a lot less variables. That said, I also enjoy how the story justifies the running a faction thing by completely destroying the Legion, and having them go into a large civil war. I feel like they're kind of the perfect group to do it to, predisposed to already follow orders, but also fighting amongst each other. Jaffa 5's game, set in New York City, would feature a system where the morality of a faction determines the rewards of how you complete a quest, either lethally or non-lethally. They want to emphasize crime and punishment, and the towns may deal with crime in different ways, such as fines, imprisonment, etc. They'd also want a more in-depth healing system, such as needing a leg brace or receiving a penalty, along with wanting to have gas masks for some areas. In addition, they'd also want a settlement system limited to a couple of areas, everything else being pre-made, along with a smarter AI with different tactics and behaviors. For the plot, the player won't start off as a vault dweller, but rather a scavenger exploring and getting trapped in a vault, and entering themselves. There will be a robot who will guide you through a set of tutorial quests, starting power and life support, healing themselves, and only then getting a pit boy and escaping the vault, thus alerting the big bad. Or alternatively, being a bounty hunter, mercenary, or lawman who tracks down a criminal that's inside the vault. The criminal locks the player and themselves inside, which leads to more or less the same idea from the last thing. But after getting to the criminal and retrieving the item for the client and making their way back to the starting town, the big bad comes along, kills the town leader, and takes the item, starting the main quest line. There would be little of the main factions from the other games, only enough to update the player on the lore. So I really enjoy the starting ideas because, to be honest, I'm pretty tired of being a vault dweller. Being a scavenger or a bounty hunter would be a pretty refreshing change, as was being a courier. And the trapped inside a vault storyline is a pretty sensible way to get the pit boy. That said, I do think the big bad's involvement would need some level of fine-tuning to be a bit more presentable. But without really knowing what the MacGuffin is, it may be hard to properly recommend anything. Anyway, that was 3 more fan game ideas. I may keep this series going if you guys are interested. And special thanks to my channel members, especially my members thrice over guys like The Crazy Game Developer, Crash Boom, and Daniel McPhee. And if you want to support me and join as well, I'd be more than happy. Also, feel free to join my Discord server and chat with us. Thank you. Have a good one.